When was the last time you asked yourself this question? Is Allah Almighty pleased with me? Not your family, not your friends, not your boss, not the people watching your stories or liking your posts, but Allah Almighty. When was the last time that was your concern? We live in a world that constantly tells us to prove ourselves, to show our worth, to impress people who often do not even remember our names in their prayers. We lose sleep over what others think. We rehearse our words. We shrink our truth. We dress ourselves in expectations that do not even belong to us. All for what? For a fleeting compliment, for temporary acceptance, for a place in our heart that may never truly love us. My dear brothers and sisters, this is not the life that Allah Almighty created you for. You were not made to chase the approval of creation. You were made to walk with dignity under the gaze of the Creator. And until you redirect your heart back to Him, you will always feel like you are not enough. You will always question your worth, because the world's approval is never steady. Today they love you, tomorrow they don't. But Allah Almighty never changes. His mercy is constant. His love is pure. His knowledge is complete. He sees what no one sees. He hears the whispers of your pain. And He knows the sincerity behind every tear you cry alone. You can spend your entire life trying to please people who will never be pleased. You can give them your time, your energy, even your soul, and still they may misunderstand you. Still they may turn away from you. But Allah Almighty, when you turn to Him even once with sincerity, He never turns away. When you walk toward Him, He runs toward you. When the whole world ignores your efforts, He rewards them. When no one sees the weight you carry, He records it all. You will never be unseen by Him. So why then do we keep sacrificing our peace just to be accepted by people? Why do we say yes when our hearts are screaming no? Why do we remain silent in moments when the truth needs a voice? Why do we live like this? The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told us something powerful. He said, whoever seeks the pleasure of people by displeasing Allah will have the people turn against him. Reflect on that. Even the people whose acceptance you chase will eventually turn away from you. Because when you lose Allah, you lose everything. And when you hold on to Him, He gives you everything you need. It is time to ask yourself, whose approval are you really living for? Whose praise excites you more? The praise of people who may never be satisfied, or the praise of your Lord, who created you with love and purpose? This world will constantly test your sense of worth. It will make you believe that you are only valuable if others say you are. But your value was written by Allah Almighty long before anyone else had an opinion about you. You are valuable because He chose you to exist. You are worthy because He fashioned you with care. And you are enough when you are sincere with Him, even if you are rejected by the whole world. So today I ask you to pause, to look into your heart and ask, am I living for people who cannot benefit me in the grave? Am I shaping my life around voices that will not be there when I stand alone before my Lord? What use is all the praise in this world if it comes at the cost of my hereafter? Is not Allah sufficient for His servant? That is what He asks in the Quran. And the answer is yes, 1,000 times yes. Allah Almighty is enough for you. He is more than enough. Your peace will not come from the opinions of others. It will come from your connection with the one who sees your truth, knows your pain, and never tires of you returning to Him. It is time to let go of this endless race for validation and walk back towards sincerity, toward obedience, toward peace. Let your aim no longer be to be seen by people. Let it be to be known by Allah. Because the moment you start living for His approval, everything begins to change. Not because life becomes easier, but because your heart becomes lighter. You stop pretending, you stop performing, and you start living with purpose, with truth, with freedom. And that, my beloved, is the beginning of real peace. The kind of peace the world can never give you, and the kind it can never take away. How long will you exhaust your soul for people who would never cry for your grave? How many tears have you held back? How many pieces of yourself have you given away trying to keep people in your life who were never meant to stay? We carry others, we carry their opinions, their moods, their burdens, their silence. We carry their disapproval like chains around our hearts, and we tell ourselves this is love, this is loyalty, this is what good people do. But sometimes in trying to save everyone else, we drown ourselves. Dear brothers and sisters, your heart was not made to carry the weight of the entire world. You are not responsible for fixing everyone. You are not to blame for every relationship that falls apart. Some people were sent to your life as a test, not as a companion. Some were placed by Allah Almighty not to walk with you, but to teach you when to let go. There are moments in life when carrying someone too long becomes disobedience, when your silence becomes compromise, when your patience becomes self-betrayal, when your loyalty to them becomes disloyalty to yourself, and more importantly to your Lord. And that is a line we must never cross. Allah Almighty tells us in the Quran, O you who believe, protect yourselves and your families from a fire whose fuel is people and stones. He does not say carry others while you burn. He says protect yourself first. Your time is a gift. Your heart is not a doormat for anyone to trample in the name of kindness. And sometimes the hardest part is that those you love most are the very ones pulling you down. You start praying more. They mock you. You set boundaries. They accuse you of being selfish. You begin to grow. They say you've changed. They liked you when you were smaller, quieter, easier to control. But now that you are choosing obedience over approval, you have become a threat to their comfort. It hurts, I know. Especially when the ones who discourage your growth are people you care for deeply. Family, friends, people you've known for years. But the truth is, not everyone who starts with you will stay with you. Not everyone who smiles with you in public is good for your soul in private. And sometimes love looks like distance. Sometimes love is choosing your peace with Allah Almighty over the company of those who distract you from Him. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, a person is upon the way of his close friends, so let each of you be mindful of whom he befriends. Who are the people around you? Do they remind you of your prayers or distract you from them? Do they lift you when your faith is low or drag you further down? Are they helping you build a bridge to the next life, or are they pulling you deeper into the love of this one? This is not about arrogance. It is about accountability. You do not have to hate anyone to walk away. You do not have to explain your growth to those who are committed to misunderstanding it. You simply have to protect the most precious thing you have, your relationship with Allah Almighty. And if keeping someone in your life costs you that, then it is not worth the price. You cannot carry everyone. And you were never meant to. Even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the most beloved to Allah, could not guide every heart. Guidance belongs to Allah alone. Your job is not to drag people to the truth. Your job is to live it, to be sincere, to make effort, and then to trust the results to the one who knows what is hidden and what is seen. It is okay to outgrow people. It is okay to love from afar. It is okay to grieve the loss of relationships that once felt unbreakable. But do not grieve so much that you forget your journey, that you pause your progress, that you lose sight of where you are going. Not everyone will understand your path, but it was never for them to understand. It was for you to walk with courage, with clarity, and with trust in Allah Almighty. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is to stop carrying what was never yours to hold. Let people go, let their opinions go, let their silence go. You are not responsible for anyone's journey but your own. And you will not be questioned about their choices, you will be questioned about yours. So protect your soul, guard your peace, surround yourself with those who remind you of the next life, and never feel guilty for choosing the path that brings you closer to Allah Almighty, because in the end He is the only one who will stand by you when no one else can. There is a moment in your journey when you begin to rise, quietly, privately, not to be seen, not to be praised, but simply because your soul is tired of being distant from the one who made it. You start to change, you pray more consistently, you leave conversations that displease Allah Almighty, you speak the truth even when your voice shakes. You set boundaries, you become more mindful of how you spend your time, what you expose your heart to, what you allow into your life. And suddenly people who once claimed to love you begin to look at you differently. They say, you've changed. They say you're too strict, too distant, too religious, too much. But the truth is, you haven't become too much. You've simply stopped making yourself less. Dear brothers and sisters, your growth will offend some people. It will disturb the comfort they found in your silence. It will unsettle those who benefited from your lack of boundaries. It will irritate those who hoped you would always stay small, agreeable and controlled. But when you begin walking toward Allah Almighty, you begin walking away from anything that was never sincere. And yes, it hurts, because some of those people are close to you. You shared memories, you laughed together, they knew your past, but they cannot handle your present. And they are not ready for your future. You want them to grow with you, but they resist. You pray they will understand, but they mock. You explain, hoping to be seen, but all they see is someone who is no longer easy to manipulate. My beloved, you are not responsible for their comfort. You are responsible for your truth. And the truth is, growth often comes wrapped in loneliness. But that loneliness is not empty, it is sacred. It is the space where Allah Almighty nurtures you, shapes you, teaches you how to depend on Him and Him alone. And in that sacred space you will find something better than companionship. You will find peace. And be patient. Allah Almighty says in the Quran, for indeed Allah does not allow the reward of those who do good to be lost. He sees your struggle. He hears the words you never speak. He knows how heavy it feels to outgrow people you still love. But He also knows what He has prepared for you. And sometimes, in order to reach that, you must walk through a season of shedding, of leaving behind what no longer serves your soul. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said something beautiful. He said, Islam began as something strange and it will return to being strange, so give glad tidings to the strangers. Those who hold on to faith in times of darkness will always be misunderstood. But Allah promises glad tidings to them, not because they were perfect, but because they chose Him over everything else. So if people distance themselves because you've chosen a life of obedience, let them go. If they gossip, stay silent. If they doubt your sincerity, leave your case to Allah. You do not need to prove your heart to anyone. He is the knower of hearts, and He will honor every sacrifice made for His sake. You may lose company, but you will gain clarity. You may lose friends, but you will gain firmness in faith. And you may lose admiration from people, but you will gain the love of your Lord. What greater gain is there? Remember, your purpose is not to make everyone comfortable. Your purpose is to live in a way that pleases Allah Almighty, even if it unsettles the world around you. Your silence, your truth, your prayer, your modesty, your refusal to follow the crowd, all of that is strength. And every time you make a choice that honors your faith, even when it hurts, you are planting a seed in your soul that will bloom in the next life. Not everyone is meant to go where you are going. And not everyone will celebrate the you that is healing, growing and rising. But that is okay. You were not created to be understood by everyone. You were created to be faithful, sincere, grateful. And you were created for paradise. So keep walking. Even if you walk alone. Even if the word calls you strange. Even if those you love choose distance over understanding. Because the one who sees your heart never leaves you. And every step you take toward Him is a step toward peace, strength, and eternal joy. Do not dim your light to keep others comfortable. Shine with sincerity, walk with courage, and remember, when the world turns away from you, Allah Almighty remains. And He is more than enough. Letting go is not weakness, it is not failure, it is not giving up. Sometimes letting go is the most courageous act of obedience. It is the quiet decision to trust Allah Almighty more than you trust your own emotions. To release what you once begged Him to keep. To stop holding so tightly to what He is gently taking away. We often struggle with the thought, what if I never find better? What if I regret this? What if I lose something that meant everything to me? But pause for a moment and ask yourself, did it really bring you peace? Or were you holding on to a memory, an idea, a hope that never came true? Were you clinging to someone who was already gone in their heart but still present in your life? Were you staying out of fear rather than love, out of comfort rather than truth? Letting go is hard because it forces us to confront our trust. Not trust in others, but trust in Allah Almighty. Do you really believe that He will replace what you gave up for His sake? Do you truly believe that He sees what you sacrificed in silence? That He hears the pain you never speak aloud? Because if you do, then letting go is not loss. It is a transaction with the one who never breaks His promises. Allah Almighty tells us in the Quran, perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you do not know. This verse was not revealed to decorate walls or be recited during sorrow. It was revealed to carry you through the very moments that break your heart. The moments when the path ahead feels unclear. The moments when the people you love most walk away. The moments when you are left holding only your faith, and that must be enough. Sometimes the door you are begging Allah to keep open is the very one that is blocking your growth. Sometimes the person you cannot stop thinking about is the test that is delaying your peace. Sometimes the pain you are trying to escape is the soil in which your strength is being planted. And that is why the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, you will never give up something for the sake of Allah except that He will replace it with something better. Better does not always mean easier. Better does not always mean more familiar. But better always means more aligned with your soul, more rooted in truth, more worthy of who you are becoming. There is a version of you that only exists on the other side of surrender. A version of you that is no longer dependent on people to feel loved, no longer begging to be seen, no longer shrinking to make others comfortable. A version of you that has finally found peace in being unseen by the world and known by Allah Almighty. You will never truly move forward if you are still chained to the past. You cannot build something new while holding on to what has already ended. Some doors must close so your soul can breathe again. Some endings are actually beginnings disguised as heartbreak. And some people are lessons, not lifelines. It's okay to mourn the loss, to feel the weight of walking away, to miss what once was. But don't let that sorrow make you question the wisdom of your Lord. Don't let the ache in your chest convince you that you made a mistake by choosing Him. Because whatever you let go for the sake of Allah Almighty, He will replace it, not just with something equal, but with something better for your faith, for your character, for your eternal future. So if you're in that space right now, if your heart is aching from distance, from separation, from letting go, remind yourself this pain is not in vain. Allah Almighty sees it. He records it. He multiplies its reward. And He will send something greater than what you lost. Let them go. Let the burden go. Let the overthinking go. Let the false hope go. Let the silent waiting for someone to finally understand your worth go. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not without direction. The one who split the sea for Musa, the one who cooled the fire for Ibrahim, the one who protected Yusuf in a well and then in a palace, that same Allah is watching over you. And He is not distant. He is closer than your own heartbeat. He is near to the one who lets go for His sake. So trust Him, even in the silence, even in the uncertainty, even when your heart trembles. Because one day you will look back and realize that the moment you let go was the moment everything began to change. There comes a moment in your journey when hesitation becomes heavier than failure, when standing still feels more painful than falling forward, when the fear of what could go wrong is no longer as loud as the voice in your soul that whispers, you were made for more. You see, many of us are not waiting on Allah Almighty. We are waiting on ourselves. We delay action not because we are lost, but because we are scared. We want to be certain. We want every detail to be clear. We want a guarantee that this next step will not hurt, will not fail, will not disappoint. But that is not how trust works. And that is not how growth happens. Allah Almighty says in the Quran, and when you have decided, then rely upon Allah. Indeed, Allah loves those who rely upon Him. He does not say, wait until you feel ready. He does not say, pause until everything makes sense. He says, decide, then trust. Because in truth, trust in Allah is not what you feel after the decision. It is what you carry through the decision. It is walking into uncertainty with a heart anchored in certainty that your Lord will never abandon you, even when you feel unsure of yourself. Too many dreams are buried under the soil of hesitation. Too many prayers are whispered but never followed with action. Too many lives remain unchanged because people are waiting for a sign, for strength, for someone to come along and push them forward. But sometimes the sign you're waiting for is the very discomfort that keeps you up at night. Sometimes your hesitation is the storm before your breakthrough. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told us, the strong believer is more beloved to Allah than the weak believer, while there is good in both. Strength here is not about physical power. It is about spiritual courage. It is the believer who moves even when afraid, who acts even when uncertain, who keeps going even when the path is not clear, because they know that Allah is in charge, not them. You don't need to have all the answers to take the first step. You don't need to be confident to begin. In fact, confidence is built in motion, not before it. You prove to yourself that you can do hard things by actually doing them, by showing up, by speaking up, by taking risks for the sake of truth, for the sake of growth, for the sake of becoming the person Allah Almighty created you to be. So what is it that you are hesitating on? Is it that prayer you've been delaying? That toxic relationship you know needs to end? That goal you've put off for years? That one thing that has been sitting in your heart heavy and unfinished because you keep telling yourself, tomorrow I'll begin. But my dear brothers and sisters, tomorrow is not promised, and hesitation is not neutral, it is a thief. Every moment you wait, it steals clarity, it steals strength, it steals progress. What you hesitate on today, you may regret tomorrow. Not because you failed, but because you never even tried. And the truth is, you already know what needs to change. You already know what Allah Almighty has placed in your heart. You already feel that tug, that pull, that quiet voice calling you to do better. And every time you ignore it, it gets quieter. Not because the message isn't true, but because your hesitation is drowning it. You are not stuck because you lack knowledge. You are stuck because you are afraid of what might happen when you finally act on what you already know. But listen carefully. The cost of inaction is almost always higher than the cost of a misstep. At least when you try, Allah sees your effort. At least when you begin, He guides your path. But when you stay frozen, you lose both time and direction. There will never be a perfect moment. There will never be a day when you feel fully ready, and yet Allah Almighty still calls you forward. Not because He needs your action, but because you need your action. Because motion brings blessing, effort invites divine help, and when you act with sincerity, even your mistakes become part of your growth. You are not alone in this. Every believer has walked this road, the path between fear and faith. Every soul that ever grew had to first let go of their hesitation. So count down, breathe in, trust Allah, and move toward prayer, toward purpose, toward healing, toward change. Because once you begin, you'll realize something beautiful. The strength you thought you needed at the start actually comes after you take the first step. And that step, the one you've been hesitating on for far too long, might just be the one that changes everything. There comes a point in life when you realize that the one you've been waiting for is you. The one who needs to make the change, the one who has to show up, the one who must finally decide to pour back into their soul, not for people, not for status, not for recognition, but for Allah Almighty. Because your soul is exhausted. It has been begging you for attention, whispering in those quiet nights when you can't sleep, weeping behind the smiles you wear during the day, and you've ignored it long enough. You've spent so much time pouring into others. You gave them your energy, your concern, your peace. You tried to carry their weight even when your own shoulders were trembling. And now your spirit feels worn out. Not because you're weak, but because you forgot to pour into the one heart that was yours to protect. You forgot yourself. And yet Allah Almighty in His mercy is still calling you back. He reminds us in the Quran, indeed, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. It starts with you, your healing, your discipline, your intention, your willingness to stand before your Lord and say, I'm ready now. Ready to return, ready to rebuild, ready to rise again. But you must be honest with yourself. You cannot pour from a soul that has gone dry. You cannot give love when your own heart is empty. You cannot lead others while you are lost. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told us, every one of you is a shepherd and every one of you is responsible for his flock. But how can the shepherd guide if he has lost the path? You are responsible for your own soul first. That is not selfish. That is sincerity. That is spiritual integrity. Because when you are whole, when you are strong in faith,